The dust of a 3-week stint in the Cascades still clung to my boots as I pulled my battered F-150 into the driveway. I've been out in the wilds of Washington State, overseeing a bridge retrofit for a small mountain town, nothing glamorous, just steel, concrete, and the kind of solitude that makes you forget the world exists. I'm a structural engineer by trade, but I also manage my family's equipment rental outfit, a gritty little legacy my dad handed down after he retired to fish full-time. Point is, I like things simple, blueprints that make sense, machines that roar to life, and land that stays where it's supposed to. So when I rounded the corner of my quiet street in Maple Grove and saw Ida gleaming, garish structure squatting on my half-acre lot 2 blocks down, I damn near drove into my mailbox. It wasn't just any structure. It was a full-on VY lion, complete with a wraparound porch, twinkle lights strung like some suburban fairy tale, and a banner flapping in the breeze. Ellen's Enclave grand opening celebration. Folding chairs dotted what used to be my wildflower meadow. A kiddie pool sat where my old oak bench once stood, and God help me, a portable toilet labeled Empress's Restroom was parked right next to the stone fire pit my dad and I had built when I was 16. That fire pit wasn't just rocks and mortar. It was late nights laughing over burnt marshmallows, the last project we finished before cancer took him. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and blinked again. Nope, still there. Worse, a gaggle of homeowners association type of splitboards in hand. Wine glasses raised were milling around like they owned the place. At the center of it all stood Ellen Pritchard, HOA president and self-appointed dictator of Maple Grove, delivering a speech atop a makeshift stage made from my fire pit stones. She waved a glass of rose, her platinum bob bouncing, as she declared something about community enhancement. A DJ booth thumped bass through speakers plugged into my outdoor electrical outlet, the extension cord snaking across my grass like a neon insult. I killed the engine and sat there, hands gripping the wheel, trying to process the absurdity. 3 weeks ago, I'd left town with my gear and a cooler of sandwiches, expecting to return a piece. Instead, I'd stumbled into a hostile takeover. My lot me lot, inherited from Dad, deeded in my name, a quiet patch of earth I'd tended for years was now Ellen's playground. And she didn't even have the decency to pretend it was temporary. I stepped out of the truck, the crunch of gravel under my boots drowned out by the DJ's remix of Sweet Caroline. The air smelled of cheap Chardonnay and entitlement. Ellen spotted me mid-sentence, her eyes narrowing before she plastered on a smile that could have curdled milk. Well, look who's back, she chirped, loud enough to draw every head in my direction. Jake Morrow, just in time to join the festive VY ties. I didn't answer. I just stood there, arms crossed, staring at the monstrosity she'd slapped together. Concrete footings, painted siding, a sign above the door reading HOA headquarters. This wasn't some pop-up tent. This was a calculated land grab. You built this? I finally asked, my voice low, like the rumble before a storm. Ellen fluttered a hand, her manicured nails catching the light. Oh, we didn't build it, Jake. We in VYCO'd it. The community needed a gathering space, and your little patch was just sitting there, begging for purpose. Purpose, I repeated, glancing at the fire pit she'd defaced. That's my land, Ellen. Private property. You get that, right? She laughed, a sharp, tinkling sound that made my jaw clench. Oh, honey, don't be so dramatic. We had a vote. The HOA board agreed this was for the greater good. You were off playing Mountain Man, so we took initiative. Initiative, I said, stepping closer. Who voted? The board, she replied, sipping her wine. Unanimous decision. And the deed? The title? County records. She waved me off again, pulling a binder from under her arm. We've got it all worked out. Look, she flipped it open to a page with a blurry Google Earth screenshot of my lot, circled in red marker with Ellen's Enclave scrawled across it. A smiley face sticker grinned up at me from the corner. I stared at it, then at her. You can't just doodle on a map and call it yours. Don't be difficult, she said, her smile tightening. You're welcome to join the Enclave for a modest membership fee, of course. That's when I noticed the treasurer, a wiry guy named Greg, hovering nearby with a clipboard. "Hey, Jake," he said, oddly VYS to the tension. "Want to sign up for taco night? We're doing a salsa bar." I turned and walked back to my truck, not trusting myself to respond. Rage simmered under my skin, but something colder was taking root of plan. They thought they'd waltzed in and claimed VY Tory. They didn't know who they were dealing with. I wasn't just some guy with a pickup and a bad attitude. I had the tools, the know-how, and the legal high ground. Ellen's enclave was about to meet its maker, and I don't mean her glitter pens. The next morning, I was up before the sun, a mug of black coffee steaming in my hand as I spread Dad's old deed across the kitchen table. The ink had faded, but the words were ironclad. Half an acre, parcel number 47 to 192, owned by Jacob Daniel Morrow. No liens, no disputes, just a clean title passed down from a man who'd worked his hands raw to keep it ours. I fired up my laptop, punched the number into the county assessor's site, and there was still mine, untouched by HOA fairy dust. I called the zoning office next. A sleepy clerk named Marla answered, and after 10 minutes of clicking and muttering, she confirmed what I'd suspected. No permits had been filed for Ellen's Pa VY Lion. No notices, no inspections, nothing. It was a ghost structure, legally speaking, which meant I could tear it down without so much as a courtesy wave. I thanked her, hung up, and leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I could lawyer up, drag this out in court, let the system grind Ellen into dust. But that wasn't me. I don't negotiate with trespassers. I remove them. I dialed Tony, my right-hand man at the equipment yard. He picked up with a yawn. "What's up, boss?" "Ellen Pritchard built a damn gazebo on my lot," I said. A beat of silence. "Like a tent." "No, like walls, lights, a porta-potty with her name on it. Concrete foundation." He whistled. "She's got balls, I'll give her that." "What's the play?" "Demolition," I said. "Bring Carl." Tony chuckled. "Carl's overkill." "You sure?" "Overkill's the point." Carl was our VYS bulldozer beast of a machine that could flatten a house without breaking a sweat. We nicknamed it after a job in 19 when it cleared a mudslide's worth of debris in under a day. If Ellen wanted war, Carl was my general. By noon, I was at the yard, walking the line of machines like a commander inspecting his troops. Excavators gleamed in the sun. Forklifts stood ready, but Carl loomed largest, its orange frame a promise of reckoning. I ran a hand along its blade, feeling the cold steel. "Time to take back what's ours," I muttered. That night, I drafted a cease and desist letter short, sharp and loaded with facts. I cited the deed, the zoning laws, the lack of permits, and gave them 72 hours to dismantle their little empire and vacate my land. I attached a survey map, a title copy, and a photo of Carl idling at the yard, caption "Meet your deadline." I printed it, notarized it at the bank, and dropped it in Ellen's mailbox under the cover of dusk. The sticky note on top read, "Move fast. Carl doesn't wait." I figured 72 hours would light a fire under them. Panic, argue, maybe even comply. I underestimated Ellen's stubbornness. The next evening, I drove by the lot to check their progress. Instead of packing up, they doubled down. Ellen stood on the porch, leading a VY session with a megaphone, her voice blaring about resilience in the face of adversity. A table held flyers titled "Save Ellen's Enclave," and my cease and desist letter was pinned to a corkboard with "selfish sabotage" written across it in purple ink. A neighbor, Mrs. Carter, who'd once brought me cookies when I moved and caught my eye from across the street. She shuffled over, clutching her cardigan. "She's saying you're unhinged, Jake, that you threatened to burn it down." "I didn't threaten anything," I said, jaw tight. "I told her to move it, or I would. She's got half the block alive VYing you hate kids and puppies." I snorted. "She's the one who paved over my garden." Mrs. Carter hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Watch out. She's got a lawyer now. Her cousin or something." I nodded, filing that away. Ellen wasn't just delusional, she was desperate. Good. Desperate people make mistakes. The next day, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, expecting a telemarketer. Instead, I got a nasal voice dripping with fake authority. "This is Victor Hensley, representing the Maple Grove HOA legal task force. We've received your threatening letter. Threatening? I cut in. It's a legal notice, Vic. Check the attachments. He huffed. It's wildly aggressive. You can't just demolish a community asset. It's not an asset. It's an illegal build on my land. Look up the parcel. I'll wait. More huffing, then keyboard clacks. Silence stretched. Well, regardless, we're prepared to mediate. Mediate what? You've got no permits, no title, no leg to stand on. We have a quorum vote. Means jack squat legally. Tell Ellen to pack up her twinkle lights. I hung up, adrenaline buzzing. They were scrambling, and I was done playing nice. I called Tony. Saturday, 7 a.m. Bring Carl and the crew. Roger that, he said. Gonna be a hell of a show. Saturday dawned crisp and bright, the kind of morning that begs for coffee on the porch. Instead, I was in steel-toed boots and a hard hat, watching Carl roll down my street on a flatbed, flanked by Daisy and Hank, our backup dozers. A crowd gathered as we approached the lot. Kids on bikes, neighbors with thermoses, even a guy with a lawn chair and a bag of chips. Ellen stood on the enclave steps, hair in curlers, clutching a mimosa like it was a lifeline. Her eyes widened as Carl's engine growled to life. I stepped out of the truck, clipboard in hand, and met her gaze. 72 hours came and went, Ellen. You didn't move it. Now I will. You can't, she shrieked, nearly spilling her drink. This is vandalism. I handed her a stack of papers, deed, zoning docs, demolition permit. This is me cleaning up your mess. Carl lurched forward, blade gleaming. The first wall buckled like foil, concrete cracking under the weight. Ellen screamita primal, wordless whilst the porch collapsed, sending folding chairs flying. Daisy hit the back wall, and Hank took the side, a symphony of destruction. The hot tub popped like a balloon, water gushing across the rubble. The Ellen's Enclave banner tore free, fluttering into a ditch. The crowd grew, phones out, some cheering, some gasping. Ellen tried to block Carl, arms flailing, until Greg pulled her back, whispering furiously. She went rigid, then stormed off, robe flapping. The neighbors parted silently, no one daring to clap. That quiet was her real defeat. By noon, the Enclave was a memory debris sorted, hauled away, my lot bare again. The city inspector, a guy named Paul Iden VY Ted for oversight, signed off with a nod. Textbook demo, he said. That thing never should have gone up. Tony clapped my shoulder. Best Saturday I've had in years. A kid in the crowd yelled, "Can you smash something else?" I laughed, the tension easing. But as the dust settled, I knew this wasn't over. Ellen didn't quit, she festered. 3 days later, a manila envelope landed on my porch, hand-delivered by Greg, who avoided eye contact as he scurried away. Legal action enclosed, it read, stamped with an HOA logo, a tree with a crown. Inside was a demand letter from Victor Hensley, ESQ Ellen's cousin, fresh from law school and brimming with bravado. It accused me of willful destruction of communal property, emotional terrorism, and disruption of CIVYC harmony, demanding Dula $750,000, an apology, and a rebuilt enclave with a meditation deck. A sketch showed Ellen's dream redo, complete with a fountain labeled Pritchard Peace Pool. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee, then called my lawyer, Sarah Klein. Sarah was a shark, calm, precise, and lethal. She skimmed the letter and snorted. Emotional terrorism? Did he write this in crayon? They're serious, I said. Or delusional? Both, she replied. I'll bury them. Within 48 hours, Sarah filed a counterclaim. Trespassing, property damage, illegal construction, and emotional distress for me. Not them. We sought damages, fees, and an injunction against future HOA overreach. She even dug up records showing Ellen had siphoned HOA dues into the enclave without approval, of financial bombshell. Ellen retaliated with a newsletter blitz. The tyranny of Jake Morrow, complete with a photo of her teary-eyed beside the rubble. She claimed I'd threatened her cat. I hadn't, and hated democracy, debatable. But the neighbors weren't buying it. Whispers grew about the missing funds, the secret votes, Victor's shaky credentials. The HOA was cracking. Small Claims Court was a beige box of fluorescent lights and stale air. I brought my arsenal: deed, permits, photos, VY Deo of the Enclave's construction HOA, cronies pouring concrete sans helmets or oversight. Sarah stood beside me, her briefcase a weapon of its own. Victor strutted in late, lugging a suitcase, Ellen trailing in a black dress like she was mourning a monarch. Victor opened with a theatrical rant about community spirit and Jake the Wrecker, while VYing that damn Google map. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Hargrove, peered over her glasses. "You have permits for this structure?" Victor faltered. "We had a vote." "Legal documentation," she pressed. He slid the map across the table. She stared, then turned to me. I laid out my case clean, factual, irrefutable. Sarah sealed it. The HOA built without permission, damaged my client's property, and now seeks to punish him for enforcing his rights. Ellen tried to interrupt, blaming my absence, but Hargrove shut her down. "You don't get to claim land because someone's out of town, MS. Pritchard." The ruling was swift, my favor, full stop. The HOA owed me due law $12,000 for damages and fees. Their claim was tossed. Hargrove warned Ellen, "Next time, I'll refer this to the DA." Victor shrank. Ellen fumed. Outside, she cornered me. "This isn't over, Jake. You'll pay." I smiled. "Keep dreaming, Ellen." Victory felt good, but I wasn't naive. Ellen's ego was a hydra cut off one head, another grew. I needed a permanent shield. So I rebuilt the lot not into her VY Shown, but mine. I turned it into a rooster sanctuary. Yeah, roosters. Loud, proud, and territorial as hell. I built coops with scrap lumber, painted them neon green and orange, and added a mural. Ellen's face, cartoon style, with quotes like "It's mine now," and "Pay me to join." A sign read, "No trespassing rooster patrol." A farmer friend donated 5 bird strutting, crowing sentinels named Spike, Rex, Duke, Apollo, and King. They patrolled the lot, waking the block at dawn. Neighbors loved it, kids fed them, retirees swapped eggs for coffee. Ellen? She hated it. One day, she stormed over as I fixed a fence. "This is a circus." "Free roosters for the people," I said, tossing grain. "Beats your fees." She stomped off, but the lot thrived. The city noticed too, sent me a commendation and a zoning board in VYTE. I joined, shaping rules to prevent future Ellens. The HOA imploded weeks later. Exposed funds, failed lawsuits, and rooster-related sleep deprivation tanked it. A vote dissolved it 86-3. Ellen's last speech was cut short when someone unplugged her mic. Her empire was dust. I planted a maple tree where the Enclave once stood, a plaque beneath it, "To boundaries honored." The lot became a hub: roosters, laughter, no clipboards. Ellen faded, her curtains twitching, but her voice silent. I'd won out with fists, but with facts, steel, and a few feathered friends. Maple Grove was free, and my line was drawn, loud and clear. Weeks turned into months, and the Maple Grove I'd known, the one before Ellen's glitter-strewn tyranny, began to re-emerge, only better. The Rooster Sanctuary wasn't just a quirky middle finger to the HOA's ghost. It became the heartbeat of the block. Spike, Rex, Duke, Apollo, and King ruled their neon kingdom with the swagger of feathered warlords, their dawn chorus a daily reminder that this land was mine and now, in a way, everyone's. Neighbors I'd barely spoken to in years started dropping by with scraps or just a chat. Old Mr. Henshaw, a widower who'd kept to himself since his wife passed, took to sitting on the new bench I'd carved, tossing corn and muttering to the birds like they were old pals. "Better company than Ellen," he'd grumble, and I'd laugh. The donation jar filled up: fast quarters, dollar bills, even a 20 once, stuffed in with a note that read for the Rooster Rebellion. I used it to add a windmill for water, a compost bin, and a signboard where kids could post drawings of the birds. One sketch showed King chasing a cartoon Ellen, her bob flopping as she fled in terror. I pinned it up with pride. Ellen herself? She'd gone quiet too quiet. Her house, once a hub of HOA powwows, sat dark most days, blinds drawn tight. The rumor mill churned. She was plotting a comeback. She'd moved to her sister's in Boise. She'd taken up knitting to cope. I didn't care much either way. The roosters crowed, the tree grew, and my lot was mine again. That was enough. Until it wasn't. One crisp October morning, I was hosing down the coops when a shadow fell across the dirt. I looked up to see Victor Hensley Ellen's sweaty, suitcase-dragging cousin lawyer standing at the edge of the lot, clutching a manila envelope like it was a live grenade. His tie was crooked, his forehead glistened, and he had the look of a man who'd drawn the short straw. "Jake," he said, voice cracking. "We need to talk." I turned off the hose, wiped my hands on my jeans, and crossed my arms. "What's this, Vic?" "Another glitter map lawsuit." He flinched, then thrust the envelope at me. "It's a settlement offer. Ellen's willing to drop everything legal claims, public complaints if you'll." He swallowed hard. "If you'll take down the mural and the roosters." I raised an eyebrow, glancing at the coop where Ellen's cartoon face scowled from the wood, surrounded by her greatest hits. "She doesn't like her portrait?" "It's not funny, Jake. She's saying it's defamation. Harassment. She's got photos of people laughing at Itsuis. It's ruining her reputation." "Good," I said, tossing the envelope back at him. It hit his chest and flopped to the ground. "Her reputation's her own mess. Tell her to take it up with the judge who already ruled against her." Victor scrambled to pick it up, his face reddening. "She's serious this time. She's hired a real lawyer, not me. Someone from the city. They're talking injunctions, fines. Let him try." I cut in. "I've got permits for the coops, zoning approval for the birds, and a First Amendment right to paint whatever the hell I want on my own property. She's got nothing but a bruised ego and a nephew who can't win a case." He opened his mouth, then shut it, deflating like a punctured balloon. "She's not going to stop, you know. She's unhinged. Then she'll crash and burn again," I said. "I'm not budging." Victor slunk off, tail between his legs, and I went back to the hose. But his words stuck with me, not because I was worried, but because they lit a spark. Ellen wasn't done, and neither was I. If she wanted a final round, I'd give her one she'd never forget. That afternoon, I called Sarah Klein. She answered with her usual dry edge. "What's Ellen done now? Burned a voodoo doll of you on her lawn?" "Close," I said, filling her in on Victor's VY sit. "She's threatening another lawsuit over the mural and the roosters." Sarah laughed at her rare, sharp sound. "She's got no case. The mural's protected speech, and the birds are zoned agricultural use. She's just flailing." "I know," I said, "but I want to end this for good. No more ambushes. What's our move?" She paused, then her voice took on a gleeful edge. "We go nuclear. File a harassment, claim her letters, her newsletters, her showing up with Victor. Add a restraining order. Make it clear that every time she blinks at your lot, it'll cost her." "I'll draft it today." "Do it," I said, and throw in a line about the roosters being emotional support animals. Really twist the knife. "Done," she said, and I could hear her grinning through the phone. The filing hit Ellen like a freight train. Sarah served it personally marched up to her door with a process server and a stack of papers thick enough to choke a shredder. Word spread fast. Ellen had 30 days to respond or face default judgment. The harassment claim listed every petty stunt she'd pulled since the demolition newsletters, Victor's VY sit, even a recorded rant she'd left on Mrs. Carter's voicemail about Jake's reign of terror. The restraining order demanded she stay 200 feet from my lot and me, roosters included. The emotional support angle? Pure gold. Sarah even got a vet to sign off on it, citing the bird's therapeutic presence after the HOA's trauma. Ellen's countermove came a week later, a protest. She rallied a dozen diehards, mostly her old board cronies outside my lot, while VYing signs like "Save Our Community" and "Roosters Ruin Lives." They chanted about neighborhood values, while King strutted the fence line, crowing like he was mocking them. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand, as Tony pulled up with a megaphone of his own. "Folks," he boomed, "this is private property. You've got 10 minutes to clear out before the cops get called." And trust me, they're tired of Ellen's noise complaints. The crowd faltered. Greg dropped his sign and bolted. Mrs. Carter, bless her, showed up with a tray of cookies and started handing them out to my side of the fence. "I'm with the Roosters," she declared, loud enough for Ellen to hear. The protest fizzled in under an hour, Ellen's shouts drowned out by Apollo's triumphant screech. The cops did come. Officer Daniels, my old precinct pal, leading the charge. He took one look at the scene, sighed, and turned to Ellen. "Ma'am, your VYO a pending restraining order. Disperse, or I'm cuffing you." She sputtered, face purple, but her crew dragged her away before Daniels could make good on it. He tipped his hat to me. "You've got a knack for pissing off the right people, Jake." "It's a gift," I said, grinning. The court date for the harassment claim was anticlimactic. Ellen showed up with her new Liera slick guy in a pinstripe suit who clearly hadn't read the file. He tried to argue community intent, but Sarah dismantled him in 10 minutes flat, presenting a timeline of Ellen's antics backed by affida VYTS from half the block. The Judge Hargrove again even let Ellen speak. "I've seen enough," she said, banging her gavel. "Harassment claim granted. Restraining order permanent. MS. Pritchard, your fine due law $5,000 for frivolous filings, and I'm ordering you to attend mediation training at your expense." Case closed. Ellen stormed out, her lawyer trailing like a scolded dog. Victor, lurking in the back, slipped away without a word. I shook Sarah's hand outside. "You're a legend," I told her. "Just doing my job," she said. "But the rooster bit? That was fun." Winter came, blanketing Maple Grove in snow. The Roosters got a heated coup courtesy of a grant from the dissolved HOA's funds, and the lot stayed alive, a beacon of defiance and community. Ellen sold her house in the spring, MOVYing to a condo downtown, where rumor had it she tried to start a tenant board and got shut down cold. Her reign was over, her name a punchline. I kept this sanctuary going, adding a duck named Ellen I just for kicks. The oak tree stretched taller, its plaque a quiet testament to boundaries honored. Neighbors threw a potluck there every summer. No fees or clipboards required. Mr. Henshaw carved a rooster statue from driftwood, and we set it by the gate, a guardian of the peace we'd fought for. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I sat on the bench with a beer, watching Spike chase a butterfly. Daniels rolled by on patrol, waved, and called out, "Still king of the hill, Morrow." "Damn right," I shouted back. The roosters crowed, the wind rustled the leaves, and I smiled. Ellen had crossed the line, but I'd drawn it deeper etched it in steel, feathers, and the kind of stubborn grit Dad would have been proud of. This was my land, our place, and no one would take it again. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY.